Welcome to this week's episode of the Forward Podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Shepard, and tonight we're diving into a subject that we've been asked several times to try to address, and we've kind of been putting it off a little bit, but decided this evening, hey, this is the time we are going to start conquering the subject of embracing singleness.
Yeah.
And we've got quite a few listeners that tune in that don't kind of just hit the mark of, hey, we're married and we're raising kids or we're in ministry. I do love that we're trying to approach subjects where everybody is included. But tonight we are going to kind of head into that direction. But if you're sitting on here and you say, well, I'm married, so this doesn't have anything to do with me, and turn it off, I think there are some great pointers that we're going to give that will help everyone understand that people who fit in this context and or this category, they fit in our world too. And they're not different citizens. They're not, no, these are great people. But the world that we live in, without giving a lot of stats this evening, there are a lot of single people out there. Wouldn't you say there's probably more nowadays than it seems like there used to be even when we were younger?
I think so. I think people are waiting a little longer to get married. And culturally speaking, I think singleness is definitely more, I don't know, it's not just, I guess we're not like following such a traditional path as we used to.
Yeah.
Like singleness, I don't want to say like it's more accepted, like making it sound like, it's something that shouldn't be.
But it kind of is more
it's
accepted,
more,
for sure.
I think it's more understandable. Like we have the wealth in America and people have the independence to not be afraid to wait a little longer to get
Right.
married. And in a lot of ways, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
It's
Do you
great.
remember we were in college? If you were not ready to be married, I mean, like by the time you were 20, you were kind of weird. Like
Yeah.
everybody at 19 was dating someone, or they used to call it, some people call it
Courting.
Courtship. And if you still do, that's fine.
It's all
okay.
good. It's all good.
I don't think my parents ever did. But anyways, when everybody was dating by 19, by 20, you were like engaged. And then everybody, like by the time you were getting out of college,
Yeah.
at 21, you were married.
Yeah. That was very common. Bible college is
Very.
not a great place to go if you're looking for independence.
Such a small Bible college.
Yeah.
Like,
what's
okay.
wrong with you? You're 19? You don't have a ring yet?
Your first class is like who we're going to pair you up with. Like,
Right. Like it was wild. It was the Wild West out there. Everyone was, it was like mail order brides. Like I walked in like, I mean,
and it
you
still
just
took
felt
you
like
and
that.
I a little while even kind of find each other at college, even though we were at a small college.
A little while was like
It's
one semester.
that was a long time in Bible college
was
time.
years in Bible college
They
time.
thought we were old people.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. Either way, I'm just kind of more accepting of like whatever your journey and experience, however God moves in your life, go for it. For me, I wanted to marry young. I wanted to have children young. I mean, that was the path I wanted.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
never embarrassed or ashamed of that. I mean, I remember
Right.
going to Bible college and saying like, yeah, I'm here for my MRS degree. I don't care. I loved the classes and I went and I did well, but it's nothing to be embarrassed about. But it is completely fine if you're in your, later 20s and you've been through college and you've done all the traditional things and you're just enjoying your singleness. Like, I think that's a blessing from God too.
Yeah.
I think they're both equally valuable.
Without a doubt, I definitely, yeah.
Do you
I
ever
back
wish you
up
were
100%.
single longer?
No, I mean, not
I bet
then.
you do.
Now, all the time.
I bet you just lay in your bed at night and just say, why didn't
Here's
I
my
wait?
advice. If you're single, you just better stay
You
single.
just enjoy yourself for the rest of us.
We all look at those people like, oh, they're so
They're
cool.
so
No.
happy.
I will say this. I do believe that sometimes society gives you both. There was this pressure that
Yeah.
oftentimes we gave to people of you have to get married, which was not right.
No.
But then also there is this push by can't remember her name. I want to say Kelsey Chandler.
Kelsey Chandler.
Yeah, it's
An author?
No, she is a
Celebrity.
yes, and she
Kim Kardashian.
Oh my word, Carrie, stop naming names.
Well, who are you talking about?
It's Chelsea or Kelsey.
Kelsey
Anyways,
Grammer.
no, that's a man, right?
Yeah.
Oh my word, I can't think of her name and I can see her face anyway. She came out about a year ago and was
Does she
talking
sing?
about single life. If you say one more word, I'm done. You can finish this episode by yourself. You're going to be single for the rest of your life.
I'm heading into my singleness.
Anyway, she came out with this whole thing of how she's so happy. She doesn't have to raise kids and she's free and she's, remember
Okay.
that?
I got you.
So,
It was a celebrity. What are the funny people?
yes, she used to be on E back in the day. Anyways,
Comedian.
Carrie, nobody wants to know her name anymore.
Chelsea Handler.
Isn't that it? I think that's what I said to begin with.
You said Kelsey Chandler.
Well,
You got your words mixed up.
oh my word,
Do you
y'all.
want me to go?
I don't think we're going to get
I
through
can
this
go.
episode. No, listen. So I think both society and culture can put pressures on both, and neither is right. I think this pressure of, oh, you have to stay single and that's the better life. Those I feel like married life is the most wonderful. It is incredible.
Yeah.
It's good. You've got to help me, blah blah blah, and so on. But then again, be careful if you are single that you don't fall into this trap that others are trying to set, that this is the only life and this
Mhm.
is the best life. The best life is following God's design for who you are and where you're at.
Mhm.
But this is just personal, and I want to help. Maybe if you're a parent or grandparent out there, but then also if you are single, I think sometimes we really put too much pressure on ourselves that we're going to accomplish one thing without um, looking at the perspective of not being single. I really believe sometimes there's. Wait a minute! Don't give me that look just yet.
I'm
Listen, uh,
confused.
I really believe and have seen it so many times that there are single people out there because they were, I'm not going to date anybody till I'm done with college, or I'm
Oh.
not going to I'm not going to look in this way. I'm going to wait at home until God sends me someone. And
Mm.
there's this kind of like almost pressure they put on themselves that
Mm.
unless again, the knight in shining armor or some beautiful girl showed up at their doorstep like, hey, we need to meet and get married, then they just keep going through life without really experiencing other people
Yeah.
and or the opportunities to get to know someone.
Mm.
And I used to tell college students all the time, there were many when we were at a Bible college in California, teaching that oh, I'm not going to date anybody or like anybody until my senior year. And I'm just thinking, y'all, like, you're missing out on a lot of really good time in your life
Mhm.
for God to be working on your future spouse, could be sitting in a classroom or across from you. And so,
Mhm.
again, this, I don't think this is like a right or wrong. This honestly is my perspective on the Forward podcast, that sometimes we almost go way too far in like, if God's going to give me a spouse, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And we don't open ourselves up to the perspective, or not the perspective, the proposal, the
Possibility.
possibility of being able to. It is very late tonight, y'all, so I do
What
apologize.
would you do without your helpmeet, babe?
I'd be single. Dun, dun.
And
Okay.
you have no words or names of comedians. You're welcome.
You just give me so much to live for. It's
I
amazing.
know. You're welcome, babe. What were you saying?
No, I don't even care anymore. You know what? Forget it. I'm handing the mic over to you. So does that make sense though?
Yes.
Do you
Yeah.
agree?
I do agree. And I love that you bring out variables because now it's my turn to talk.
I'm listening to you. I actually listen.
There are so many different situations in life. And one thing oh my goodness, we have got to start this over.
Wow. About took the mic out.
The
Okay.
computer. Okay. Being single. Take two. No, I was saying there are so many different situations, and something I don't care for is that we can tend to do this in Christianity.
Mm.
We blanket everyone together, right? We all have to
Right.
be the same. And if it works in this way, then everyone has to do it this way. But you don't really see that a whole lot in God's word. I mean, God or Jesus in the New Testament, he really reached so many different people and people groups. And he was just great at meeting people where they were.
Sure.
And I love that. I love that about Jesus, that he is Lord of all.
Mm,
And it doesn't matter where you come from or your marital status or your history. God has a path for you and he has a plan for you.
yeah.
And you might be single because you're divorced or maybe you were engaged and it didn't work out. Again, with the variables, that happens and that's okay.
Right.
All of that is okay. Jesus still has a plan for you. You're not less than. You're not, the leftovers or somebody that just never got it together. You are perfect the way you are, and God still has a plan. And it's just as beautiful as someone who went a very, very traditional route and, did all the things in their 20s and whatever. That doesn't matter. God
Hmm.
can use anybody, and he can use you single, he can use you married, divorced, whatever it may be. And so I think just embracing where you are today. Stop looking in your past, stop looking in your future. What are you today? Are you single today? God can use you single today.
That's right.
God
That's right.
loves you single today. Maybe tomorrow you'll be married. Maybe you'll meet the one tomorrow. Guess what? God wants to use you and your partner tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes we get so fastened and so focused on the way, just like you said, the way things in our heads should be. And God's up there like, my plan stretches far beyond
Right.
the traditions of the culture in which you reside. And so I love just the fact that I see people embracing where they are in this moment
Right.
and allowing God to use whatever stage of that life they're in. However, I do want to add just this is a kind of a cool example of
Hmm.
if you're a woman out there and you're listening to this, um, we do have a little different something to look at in our lives compared to men. If you are a woman and you say, someday I want to have children, and this is being just very, just honest, right? This is real. This is the world we live in. You want to have children of your own someday. We do have to take that into consideration. And I think that's something as a single person that is not really talked about very often. If
Hmm.
you're listening to this and you're single and you say, I don't really know what to do in that instance. Like maybe you're a little older in your 30s or something and you're thinking like, I still want to have children. What should I do about this? Or maybe you're in college and you say, I want a career. So, I really want a career, but I'm worried about the timing of children. That's something we need to discuss more.
Yeah.
That is something we need to talk about. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Mm.
Don't be afraid to go to a trusted source, a counselor or parents or whatever it may be, and get that advice. I remember when we were working at a Christian college and a girl came to me one night and she said, oh my word, she was the sweetest. And we had such a good relationship. And she said, Mrs. Shepherd, I would like to know, um, I have this great career path in front of me and I could, I graduate soon and I could go off on this career path, but it really wouldn't allow for me to get married or start a family um, because I really have to give my whole self to this career. I also have this guy and we're in love and I know he wants to propose to me soon, but it would definitely, like, I would have to change careers and do something where I could be married. What do I do?
Mm.
And those questions like that are very real for women. I feel like it's not as difficult for men in that regard because
Yeah. The pressure's not there.
the pressure to bear children is not there.
Right.
So my answer to her, and it would be to anyone that asked me that, is if you want children and you want to make family a priority, and 20 years from now, you want to be on the beach on a family vacation with your grown children and they're having kids and these things are, and you're doing that traditional life thing and you want people, you want a tribe that's yours, right? Then you need to make that a priority and you need to do it while you're young and you have a wonderful man and God's giving you this opportunity. Go for it. If that's not what you want and you look down the road and say, I actually would rather have money, I'd rather have a career, I'd rather be able to give and support causes that I'm passionate about,
Hmm.
um, that's great. Do that. But just know it might not be the case where you can have children later. And if that's not important to you, then that's totally fine. That's perfectly fine. Pray about it and pick your path. And she did. And it was a beautiful thing to see. It was awesome to see her kind of wrestle that out with God and not just pick the traditional path because she was at Bible college, or not just pick the career path because that's what culture tells her to do as an independent female. It was really cool to watch
Yeah.
her wrestle that decision for and with herself
Mm.
and with God. And the coolest thing is, of course, she chose, to get married, and she has a family, a beautiful family, and it's wonderful. But in the end, she did get her career after all.
Mhm.
Like, she put in, the years building a family, and then the end, it came back around, and she still was, fully capable of having that career. So
Yeah.
that was kind of a long way to say, like, there are options out there for you, but don't be afraid to ask the questions. Don't be afraid to say, hey, for my gender, what's important to me,
Right.
and what path
Right.
should I take?
I really believe, Carrie, what you said resonates so well that God is going to use you if you're willing to be used. There's
Hmm.
plenty of examples in the Word of God of single people who are used, and then those
Yeah.
who are married. It's always being willing to open yourself up to, hey, God, whatever you have, I am willing.
Yeah.
Let me give a couple comments here. That by no means is this a how to go from single to being married, but obviously Carrie and I have been married for 18 years and we're raising 5 kids. So I believe we probably are, um, as far as giving advice, better in the arena of being married.
Right.
It's been a long time since we've been single, but
When were you single
when you,
last?
what year?
What age?
That I didn't have a girlfriend or like somebody?
13. You were last single
No,
when you were
no, I
13
was like
years
6 years
old.
old, 6, 7. I think it was first grade. I've had a crush since.
Absolutely.
Oh, whatever. Get out of here.
Absolutely.
So, um,
You haven't known a single day in your life.
you are just on a roll tonight.
I'm just killing it, babe.
Okay.
Just kidding. Sorry, go.
Yes, let me just go.
You just said that, and I was like, I don't think I even remember a time when you were single.
Well, I didn't interrupt you, but you said
I
if.
know. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
never mind. I don't
What'd
want
you
to be
put in my
back.
coffee?
Um, is it good?
Hmm.
Okay. Um, I was going to say, Carrie and I definitely have a lot more advice on the other spectrum, but I do believe there are a couple things. Number one, people are generally, the older you get, the harder it does become to get out of that single mindset. You become more of your comfortable with yourself. You become much more comfortable living the single life, which is fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
You become entrenched in like your as Carrie said, your career, who you are, your identity is kind of built upon. But I will say this, don't ever get to a place where it becomes a pride thing
Yeah.
of like, well, I'm just single, so that's what I am now. If you're open to dating or open to getting married, even
Hmm.
if you're 35 going on 40, doesn't matter. Just own that.
Yeah.
Like, still be open to it. Will just put it very simply, it will be much harder as you leave your 20s to find that perfect person. But I will tell you this, does give us the desire of our heart. And
Yeah.
if we desire to do his will and we would be open enough to the prospect that there is someone out there that we could date, then open yourself up. That's okay. Be all right with that.
Hmm.
We know plenty of folks who have become older and they jump on a dating site and whatever these Christian dating sites are online, and they've met great people and they've
Hmm.
gotten married and they have families. And it's, I just think, as Carrie said, if we're not careful, we love to put everybody in a box.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, those who get on dating sites, they're wrong with, and those who don't, they're wrong. Well, it's not.
Mm-mm.
Be available and open that if you're older, you're going to seek God's will for your life. And again, it might be a little bit more difficult when you're young. There's plenty of young people out there, young adults that are looking for a spouse. And the older you get, the more sparse. But I really believe this: if you're open and you're honest, and it's not this pride thing of like, well, I never did, so I'll just play this card of, and I never wanted to, but you did. you're just being dishonest with yourself and you're
Mhm.
being dishonest with God. And so let God do what he does best. But I wanted to talk about this for a second. Carrie kind of dug into finding your relationship with God and kind of focusing on that. But then also, I really believe we ought to be cultivating community and fellowship even as single people.
Mhm.
At Crosspoint Baptist Church, where I pastor, we came in and we really needed to revamp kind of this younger adult class. And it's a hard age, but it really was something that Carrie and I were passionate about, that we need to take the next step up, because this age group is growing more and more. It's
Mhm.
going to be as big as a youth group here in the next several years in all churches,
Yeah.
because people are waiting much later in life to get married. And so we put a great young couple in there, the Mancronis. We let them own it. They have took it from just a couple people to now, during the summer, 35, 40 people are in that class now. And they're growing it, but it's growing a community of young people or single people that are coming together, and they're having this community. They're
Mhm.
having strong fellowship, they have great friendships, and then they're able to build off of each other. There may be single people that never get married and they're in
Mhm.
there, but I often find, if we're not careful in our church's care, we build this. We only have three categories. We have the married, we have the college and career, and teens, and that's it.
Mm.
And there's this in between that oftentimes, if we're not careful, is going to fall through the cracks. And
Mhm.
so, I really believe it is so vital that no matter where you're at, you get in a church or you get around a group of people that is going to fit who you are, and
Mhm.
build each other up and have great times and go places and take trips, and not just, well, I don't fit the mold of a Christian that got married and had kids at 23 years old, and so I'm
Yeah.
a nobody. You're everything. You're amazing. And
Mhm.
but find that group near you, because I really believe it's vitally important to have those friendships.
That's exactly right. And I've heard this a lot where a single person will say, I had to leave that church or I didn't care for that church. It was great, but they just didn't have anything for me.
Hmm.
And let me just tell you, you be the one to start something.
Right.
Um, that church, that pastor may not even know how to reach people. If they got married young and they've been married 20 years, and you might have to take the lead on that and meet with your pastor or pastor's wife or both and say,
Hmm.
I am single and I would like to get people in here that are like me and serve God in our singleness and use this to his glory. And it's funny because Paul actually specifically mentions in the Bible that he wishes people wouldn't get married. He
Crazy,
specifically
right?
says,
Yeah.
I kind of wish you guys would stop getting married because you could fully devote yourselves to God. And for some reason, we've ignored that passage of scripture in our churches for so many years. And we're just like, no, if you're not, and I shouldn't say we're not, we've never been like that, but
Right.
it has been really pushed in churches that shame on you if you don't get married, or why aren't you married, you're different, when it's actually in the Bible that Paul's like, I wish somebody would stop getting married so we could have some people that have time to serve God. And it's kind of a funny thing to say, but it's so true,
Mm.
because when you have children and you're building a home, that is the majority of their time. And I think Paul, when he was writing that, knew that. Like,
Right.
it's
Right.
such an extreme amount of time that you put into building a home, and it's a beautiful thing. But we also need you if you're single.
Hmm.
Our churches and our communities need people that are not encumbered with tiny little toddlers taking up all their time and energy.
Hmm.
So if you're one of those people that goes into our church and they don't have anything for you, how about you do something for them? Start a
Mm.
class. And if you say, well, I'm not a teacher, I'm not the type, then tell the pastor, if you get a teacher, I will go out, I will invite people,
Yeah.
I'll pass out flyers, give me some support, and I will work hard to make a class or a group of people in this church that are like me. And the singles class in our church is one of our best classes
It's
as
amazing.
far as energy and service and community.
Yeah.
They reach people constantly. And you know why? It's because they have the energy and the time to put into it.
Mm,
And I just can't even imagine our church without that group.
right.
And so don't be afraid. Use your time and your energy to reach others, to make a new community.
Yeah.
Explore gifts and talents. You know, if you have something that you say, well, I used to sing, or I was in choir in high school and really liked it. Like, do something. Explore your gifts and talents that God has given you to assist other people and to help us reach people. It is just more of a blessing than you can ever imagine. You
Yeah.
really are. And I wish you were told that more. I truly do.
Mm,
But I hope you hear that. I hope you hear that tonight from us.
yeah.
Truly.
So, in our next segment, we're going to talk a little bit more about where to get involved and how to. But since Carrie kind of touched on it, we'll kind of end this episode
Hmm.
with this by saying, as a pastor, let me step up and also help the single people out. And that is this. Um, if you, let's say you are married and you're serving in a church and or you're a leader that's listening to this, I really believe we can burn out our single people
Mm.
because we look at them and say, you don't have kids, you don't have a family. Okay, so you can give time to this, and this. And I have seen personally young people be almost abused in ministry,
Hmm.
where it is we'll unload and give them everything. I think there has to be respect of, you know what, they have a life too.
Yeah.
They have they have a social life, they've
Hmm.
got a spiritual life, physical life, all that, everything that comes to play with life and this journey of life in general. And so I think we need to be conscious of being careful of one group of people that really we can look at them and say, oh, they don't have this. So they have all the time, so we'll give it to them. And this is where, Carrie, we have seen so
Mm.
many times people burn out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people who are just married, we take a 22, 23-year-old, they have energy, they don't have kids, and it's very easy to unload on people like
Hmm.
that. And before you know it, they really are looking for somewhere else to go serve because it's no longer about serving Jesus. It's a job and a task and tiring, and they come to church worn out
Yeah.
and not really wanting or even willing to worship anymore because it's just become another job. And
Yeah.
so if you're single, listen to Carrie for sure. There are places to get involved. And again, our next segment, we're going to help you with that. But then for all of us that are in ministry, let's be careful that we do not
Yeah.
overuse and or abuse this wonderful, beautiful group of people that at this time in their life, God has them being single.
Hmm.
Anything you want to close out with?
Yeah. It's a beautiful phase of your life. Don't fight it. Enjoy it. And don't be afraid to ask the questions. And married people should be the same. We should all be willing to ask and say, in this time of my life, what is God's will for me? How can I use whatever my status is to best serve my community and to best grow myself in the love of God?
I love it. I love it. Hey, tune in next week and we'll continue this conversation. Thanks for the follows. Thanks for the 5-star reviews. If you have any question, make sure you hit us up at the Ford Podcast at Outlook.com, or you can jump on either one of our handles on Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter. We hope to see you soon.
Have a great week.